Hello everyone, welcome to this 7th live stream class, Introducing Buddhism and Meditation. Hope you had a good long weekend last weekend. Today I'd like to talk about having some appreciation for the situation that we are all in. But before we do this, I'd like to just go over briefly the subject that we looked at in the last class, which was the practice of ethics. So a basic practice to maintain peace of mind for ourselves is to practice ethics. So ethics is the virtuous thought, the positive thought, to abandon harming others, as well as abandoning the attitudes that are the basis of harming others. So we recognize that negative minds, non-virtuous minds, harm us as well as others. So to be happy ourselves and to be a source of happiness for others means we need to develop positive minds, non-harmful attitudes, and minds such as patience, love, compassion. And ethics is the foundation for all our virtuous positive minds to arise. So we need to recognize how our mental, verbal, and physical behaviors create disharmony in our own lives and in our interactions with others. So we looked at the 3 types of ethics. The first is the ethics of restraint. So what we're doing here is we're restraining from acting, speaking, and thinking destructively. So this is the first ethics of restraint. The second is the ethics of gathering virtues. So this is where we engage in accumulation of virtuous actions, such as patience, generosity, compassion, concentration, wisdom. And this also includes listening, thinking, and meditating on the Buddhist concepts. The third is the ethics of benefiting beings. So this is where we actively engage in deeds to help others. Through doing this, then naturally we're restrained from harming them. So, for example, helping those who suffer physically or mentally, helping old people, people who are sick, people in poverty, people who are homeless. So practicing ethics is the way for us to be relaxed and happy, to be unstressed, and to be at ease. If we're ethical, we have no guilt, we have no regret, we have no conscience problems, we have nothing to hide. Because your physical actions don't give harm, your speech is gentle and considerate, and your thoughts are not bound by malice. Any kind of interpersonal strife and conflict is subdued, and you then start to have a spontaneous arising of friendly cooperation. Also in the last class, we looked at how to purify our previous harmful actions. We can purify our past unethical actions, and if we accidentally do something unethical now. And how we do this is by using the 4 opponent powers. So through practicing the 4 opponent powers properly, we can in fact purify any negative action. So today I'd like to look at the subject of leisure and fortune. So part of developing our minds, developing ourselves, is to develop our wisdom. And a type of wisdom is to have a good appreciation for the situation that we are in. And Buddhists call this a situation of leisure and fortune. So we have all of us now attained a life where we have come across the methods of how to attain lasting happiness and how to remove our suffering. And we have an opportunity to practice this. And this, in fact, is a rare and precious situation. We have the time to practice these methods. We have the circumstances which support this practice. So by properly recognizing the extraordinary circumstances and opportunities that we have in this life, we can be inspired to direct our efforts to practice this. And it's also a source of great joy for us to fully realize how fortunate we are. So our life is our most precious possession, and it is finite, but we tend to not value it until it's threatened. However, we do need to recognize its value and treat it with respect and reverence now. and we need to appreciate the opportunity and possibilities that it gives us. So we need to make it meaningful and use it for the greatest possible benefit, both for ourselves and for others. So our situation is in fact fortunate. We have been born human, we're not born as animals. So animals live in constant fear. They're preyed upon by other animals and by humans. They have a very limited intelligence. They have very little control over their environment. Survival is a day-to-day proposition for them. Humans, however, are unique in their ability to be able to build and expand their knowledge, and we can see the development of our material world is evidence of this. So it's this capacity for knowledge which allows us to develop our minds. Then, if we look at the numbers of animals and insects, they far outnumber humans. The numbers of animals and insects, say just on your property, are more than the whole human population in this world. So we are one of fortunate few to be born as humans and not as animals. Then amongst humans, we are fortunate to be in a comfortable physical environment. Many people have difficult physical conditions. People in many parts of the world have a constant physical struggle just to survive. Now, we live in a country where we have good conditions. It's in fact a prosperous country. We don't have to struggle too much to have more than the basics in life. You know, we're living in a time and a place where we're not starving, we're not homeless. We have the material conditions to do some practice. And this is a great good fortune. Because if we don't have even the basic necessities of life, we would have to spend so much time in getting them. Then we wouldn't have the time for any personal development or spiritual practice, because we'd have to see to our physical conditions first. But most of us have a relatively comfortable material situation in which we can learn and we can practice. And the fact that these things have come to us relatively easily is a great good fortune, because it frees us, and we can use our time for practice. Although we may feel we're not financially secure, but if we compare our situation with that of others, we come to realize that we're actually really fortunate. And mostly we live in a clean environment, a healthy environment, a gentle environment. The places where most of us live are not dirty, they're not unhealthy. The climate is not too extreme and harsh. We live in a peaceful place. We're not constantly at war. In general, we have the freedoms to do what we want. We're not controlled by a dictator, or by a totalitarian government, which is intent on suppressing its people and wanting to control everything that we do and say. Then if we can't work, we're supported by the community. So not only are we comfortably physically, we live in a country where people generally care about the less fortunate, and for the most part, make provisions to look after them. Then, as well as having comfortable physical conditions, we're not seriously physically or mentally impaired. So we have the capacity to learn and to apply our knowledge. Then, amongst all the humans with a comfortable physical condition and the ability to learn, most people spend their time and energy only accumulating and sustaining wealth, or they're preoccupied with acquiring power and status. Most are not interested in any type of personal evolution or developing their potential. So we are fortunate in that we have some interest in the spiritual path. We can already see that a life spent on grasping for more wealth, more popularity, status, and sense pleasure, and then when we have them, worrying about losing them is actually missing the point. So this interest that we have in personal development, in making our life meaningful for others, is a positive quality that we need to really appreciate about ourselves. We have some instinctive belief in things that are worthy of respect. There's some feeling inside us that life has some higher meaning than just making money. There's some feeling inside us that people have an incredible potential. and that the Buddha taught something really valuable to us about how to expose and actualize that potential. So there's something in our heart that's directed towards making life meaningful. There's something in our heart that sees there's more to life than just the attachment to worldly pleasures. So as much as we are somewhat attached to worldly pleasures, there is something in us that feels there is something more. We have some confidence in the spiritual path, some appreciation of ethics. Now, many people don't have this, and many people don't think about these things. So it's nice to appreciate that we have this. So this point is not saying that other people are just unethical and that they don't have any spiritual intention. Now, I think everybody does want to be a good person at some level in their being. We can see that. We're not saying that nobody is ethical apart from us. Here, we're talking about making it something that's really central in your life, making it something that's really important to you. And we can even look at our own lives and see that perhaps this hasn't been an important thing for us for our whole life. So we're talking here about levels. Everybody has it in some way, but just how many people really listen to that part of themselves? The minute it becomes a little bit inconvenient to be ethical, ethics is the first thing to go. We tell lies is because it's more convenient. We criticize people because it's easier. And many people think that it's good to do these types of actions. It doesn't mean those people have no ethical and moral quality in them. They do have it, but it's often overshadowed by these other things. So what we're doing here is we're saying at this time in our lives, we do have some feeling that there is a path to personal development, a path to enlightenment, that our life has some kind of higher meaning and greater potential. And this openness is a positive quality that we need to appreciate about ourselves. Then not only are we interested in the spiritual path, we have actually met the teachings. So many people have an interest, but they never encounter the teachings. And these teachings and methods will enable you to have real progress in your development, on the path to achieving real and lasting happiness, not only for yourself, but also for others. But it's important to realize that the purpose of thinking of how fortunate our situation is not to make us conceited. So we're not sitting here listing all our good qualities and all our good fortune to come to a conclusion that we're the best people in the world, that we're the superior people, that we're quite magnificent compared to all other people. That's not the purpose of this topic. If you listen in a certain way, you're going to hear this topic in the sense of, this subject sounds really discriminatory, like we're putting ourselves up and putting others down. That's not the way the Buddha intended this teaching to be. So we need to be careful not to listen to the teachings with that type of mindset. Because the whole purpose of this subject is for us to recognize our good qualities and opportunities and what we have going for us. And by recognizing these things, we feel really joyful, and we come up with some determination to use this opportunity wisely. So there's a big difference. So there's two different reactions to the same subject. When we're looking at good qualities, we can react with conceit, or we can react with a sense of joy, combined with a determination to use our opportunity in a wise way. So it's this second way that we're aiming at in listening to this subject here. Because the Buddha is not teaching us to be more conceited, or to put other people down. So we can look, for example, at the turmoil that's going on in other countries, like places that are at war, or places that are experiencing a huge death toll from the coronavirus. We can feel glad that we don't live there. Even though this country has many problems, we can still feel very fortunate to live here and not in some other countries. We're saying, I'm happy I live here and I'm glad I don't live there. We're not talking about good and bad or superior and inferior. The way we want to look at these things is to apply them to our own personal life, to our own personal situation. Could we practice personal development and the spiritual path in that situation as we could in this situation? That's all we're talking about. We're not judging good or bad, inferior or superior. We're just trying to look at our lives and ask, if I were born in that situation, would I be able to practice a spiritual path as well as I can by living in this situation? So this situation that we're in is incredibly rare, where we have all these external and internal conditions coming together at the one time. So this is a really fortunate and precious life. So we need to appreciate the rarity and preciousness of our situation. If we don't appreciate the opportunity that we have in this situation, then we're in danger of misusing our life or not using it to its greatest capacity. So recognizing the opportunity allows us to put things into perspective and to decide what's really important to us. So this is the purpose of reflecting on our precious life, is to make us aware of the opportunities and good qualities that we have going for us. Many of us spend our lives not recognizing all the things that we have going for us and only looking at what isn't going for us. We might have so many wonderful things going for us, but we get in a bad mood because we missed the train in the morning or we got stuck in traffic. And then that bad mood just spoils our whole day. We don't bother to think about the fact that we had breakfast, that we have a nice family, a nice home, that we have nice colleagues, that we have a job. We let one small thing completely affect us. So contemplating this subject is to help us rebalance how we're looking at our life. By noticing all the good things, it makes us realize that we may have some difficulties, but compared to what we have going for us, for many of us, our difficulties really aren't that serious. Many people are chasing something. They think if this was better, then my life would be good. Then you can end up pursuing more and more things outside yourself, without thinking just what I have at the moment is enough. Having some contentment with that. And not only that, there's some opportunity in that. At this time of the coronavirus, many people have had to slow down. People have had to reduce their consumption, have had to reduce their activities. We've learned to live with all the restrictions on us. We've been able to live a more simple life, and many of us have learned to be happy with this. And it's been quite a big wake up for some people. And people are starting to get some sense for practicing. From our own personal experience, there are things we've had to give up. There are limitations that we don't normally have. But still, there's an opportunity to choose positive minds and to grow positive energy in our life, even when there's difficulties. And there have been many difficulties at this time, like people losing their income, losing work, having anxiety around all that, for yourself as well as for your family that are affected by it, not to mention the anxiety about the disease itself. But even with those circumstances, there's still the present moment, presenting as it is, and in that moment, choosing or finding a positive response to it. Because even in difficulties, there's opportunity to practice being a good person, a kind person, to practice being focused. So we reflect on this subject to make us happy about our good circumstances and to recognize the potential that we have and the opportunity we have with this situation, so that we get inspired and invigorated to make our lives meaningful. If we take a moment and evaluate the good circumstances we have in this lifetime, we will be amazed and joyful. So it's important to consider the advantages of our present situation, because then we'll stop taking them for granted and we'll start to use them. If we only think about our obstacles and what we lack, then this just makes us unhappy and makes us feel down. When we're down, we're prevented from using our good qualities because we don't recognize them, because we're too immersed in self-pity. Now, this is a sad waste of our potential. But we can counteract it by consciously remembering our good qualities and opportunities. So in this situation, we have the potential to perfect all our qualities, which are the source of happiness for ourselves and for others, and to become enlightened. So our aim when we meditate on this is to feel at the end how a beggar would feel all of a sudden if he realized that he had a jewel in his pocket. So it's like you're a beggar and you're completely down and out, and then you realize there's a jewel in my pocket. I'm so fortunate. What can I do with this now? So in the same way, we may have a feeling of mental poverty. We might feel that our life is a mess, but then suddenly we realize I have so many things going for me. This is incredible. What can I do with my life? How can I make my life meaningful? So when we see that we have so much going for us in our life, then we'll make an effort to practice personal development or a spiritual path. Because we see that opportunity now is quite special and quite rare, and we want to make the most of it and not just fritter it away, wasting our time on things that don't bring any meaning or purpose to our life. So in this situation, we can see each instance for a beneficial purpose. So with mindfulness, all our activities can become meaningful. And we can progress in our meditation practice and our development of realizations. So for example, with a motivation of compassion and wishing to be of benefit to others, all our activities, whether we're working or relaxing or reading, whatever it is we're doing, these can become part of the path to enlightenment with a motivation of compassion. You don't need to become a monk or a nun or go and live in an isolated place to be able to gain realizations and progress personally and spiritually. You can live a life with a job and a family and make progress and gain realizations. There's a story about a king, Indra Bodhi, who lived in Buddha's time. And the king said to the Buddha that he definitely wanted to attain enlightenment, but he didn't want to give up his family. He didn't want to give up his palace. He didn't want to give up his possessions or his responsibilities as king. But he definitely wanted to attain enlightenment in that life. So the Buddha told the king that it wasn't necessary to change his situation and that he should continue to enjoy his possessions, enjoy his position and his relationships, but without being attached to them. At the same time, the Buddha said the king, he should be mindful of impermanence, mindful of compassion, and the wisdom perceiving the true nature of reality, and to practice them accordingly. So the king followed the Buddha's instructions, and he was able to attain enlightenment in that life. So how we progress on our path is through our mental attitude to everything that we do, whether we're working or sleeping, or helping others, or meditating, or on holiday. If we remain mindful of our spiritual practice, then even a busy lifestyle can be directed to enlightenment. So our personal and our spiritual practice depends on our mind, not so much on our external conditions. So how we progress along the path is to practice moment by moment in our daily activities. So when we wake up, we can make our first thought of the day, as much as possible, I'm not going to harm others today. As much as possible, I'm going to help them. It's a simple thought, but starting the day like this revolutionizes how we live. The thought to cherish others and refrain from harming them gives us a positive motivation and a clear direction in all our day's activities. So if we encounter a disturbing situation during the day, we can remember our morning motivation. This then helps us to act beneficially and helps us to avoid becoming angry, becoming conceited, becoming jealous. Then throughout the day, we can cultivate the motivation. I'm going to act for the benefit of others. I'm going to try to diminish my limitations and develop my potentials completely so that I can help others more effectively. So in this way, we can transform what are otherwise insignificant actions into our path to enlightenment. Actions can be done with different motivations, and according to our motivation, we'll be happy or unhappy, and our actions will be worthwhile or not. So, for example, we can reluctantly clean the house, all the time wishing that this unpleasant work was finished so that we can do something enjoyable. In that case, we're not very happy, and our action of cleaning is neutral. It's not constructive and it's not destructive. But on the other hand, if we were to think, it would be nice to clean the house so my family can enjoy a pleasant environment, then we're happy to vacuum and sweep. Also, if we imagine that we're cleaning the dust of the negative minds from the minds of ourselves and everybody else, then the act of mopping the floor can be a positive action and a meditation. So in this way, our action becomes constructive and a positive imprint is left on our mind. So by generating a good motivation in the morning and then reflecting on it throughout the day, we'll find that our wish to help others and not harm them arises more easily in us, and it becomes more genuine and more heartfelt. So our path to enlightenment is a gradual one that's developed day by day. So every morning is a new opportunity to cultivate our good qualities, and each moment of the day is a chance to live them. So now that we've come across the teachings, the opportunity of our life becomes limitless. When we recognize that the real meaning in life is found in positive states, then we can embrace events and people with positive states. Having worldly success without inner development can bring negative consequences for us, like more stress, more conceit, more grasping, more anger. For example, someone who wants to earn more money, goes for more and more promotions or works more and more on their business. So they may earn more money, but they're spending more time at work and they're giving up time that they would otherwise spend with their family, with their friends, or on the things that they in fact find meaningful, that they enjoy. So for a lot of people, progressing into bigger jobs and growing businesses can also bring more stress and anxiety from the pressure of their work and also from what they're actually giving up by focusing only on their work. Or, we sometimes extend ourselves to get something that we really want. But once the initial pleasure of possessing the thing has passed, we now have to look after this thing. We have to protect it. So we spend our time looking after it, worrying about damaging it, and we have to protect it or we might lose it. So the initial pleasure of the possession has now been replaced by the stress and the worry of looking after it and protecting it. This is what happens to us. So this is the problem with looking for our happiness only in external conditions. It's not the having of the wealth or the power or the status in itself that's the problem, but it's the grasping for more and the fear of the loss which brings us unhappiness. But if we were to wrap our worldly goals with spiritual development, then we start to derive real value. By taking advantage of our great opportunity, we'll experience the happy results of improving ourselves. So what thinking about the opportunity of our life shows us is that we have a lot of potential through being human, by having human intelligence, and through having the freedoms of living in a place like this. Through having spiritual awareness means that we have a lot of potential. And what that potential is the potential to use every moment. There's the potential of this current moment or of any moment and how we relate to it. So reflecting on our precious life and its opportunity is reminding us about this potential and reminding us to take the opportunity of the present moment to its advantage. We use the opportunity particularly by taking a positive approach to our experience and to our activities. So what thinking about this precious life does as a teaching is it's a reminder that we have an opportunity to do this. If we recognize we have a precious human life, it lifts our mind. It allows us to see our potential, rather than defining ourselves by our problems and by our limitations. So this is the reason for reflecting on the preciousness of our human life and the opportunity of this human life that we have. So we'll stop there and we'll do the meditation. And the meditation that we're going to do is to reflect on a situation, an unfortunate or a difficult situation first, and see how it limits our ability to practice personal development, to practice a spiritual path, and then coming back to reflecting on our life at the moment and the opportunities that we have. So that's the meditation that we'll do. So sit in a comfortable position, whether it's cross-legged on the floor or sitting in a chair. The main thing is to keep your back upright with your spine straight, hands in your lap, right hand over the left, just touching and resting in your lap, head slightly bent forward, your lips are together, your jaw is relaxed. Your eyes are half closed and gazing down unfocused, or if that's too hard, you can close them. So this posture tells us that we are now meditating, helps us get into the mindset of meditation. We try to generate a positive motivation for our practice. We can do this by thinking, I wish for happiness and to be free from suffering. So everyone else has the same wish for themselves. So I practice now to achieve freedom from suffering and to have all happiness, so that I'm then able to help all other beings attain this state also. So we begin by settling the mind with a few moments of breathing meditation. So breathing naturally and placing your attention on the process of breathing. Sensation of the breath as it passes through your nose, slight movement of your chest and the stomach. So you are bringing your attention inwards. You're letting go of all other sights, sounds, sensations. Let go of all your problems, your worries. Let go of memories of the past, plans for the future. Just for the moment, focus only on your breath. You will lose your concentration, you will become distracted. Just be aware that you've lost your concentration on the breath. See where your mind's gone off to. Gently let go of the distraction, come back again to the breath. Anytime you become distracted, keep coming back to the breath. Let go of the distraction, come back to the breath. If it helps to keep your concentration, you can count the breath. In and out, count 1, in and out, count 2, up to 10. But if you lose your concentration, start again at 1. And counting helps to keep your mind on the breath. Feel your mind start to settle now. Become still, like a very deep, tranquil lake. Then change your object of concentration slightly. This time, focus only on your out-breath. And think that as you breathe out all your tension. Breathe out all your stress, all your worry. Breathe out all your problems. Breathe out any sickness, you may have. Breathe out all your negative minds, any anger, grasping, jealousy, conceit, ignorance. Breathe all these out. Feel that they leave you with the out breath in the form of black light, which then naturally disappears into space. Feel strongly that all these actually leave you as you breathe out and disappear. Feel a lightness and a peace as all these negativity leaves you. Feel now that you're completely free of all problems, any illness, any negativity. Then focus on your in-breath. And think as you breathe in brilliant white light. Which completely fills you with all positive qualities. Fills you with peacefulness, joy, concentration, wisdom, patience, compassion, generosity. Breathe all these in the form of brilliant white light. Breathe in good health. Breathe in peacefulness and tranquility. Breathe all these in the form of brilliant white light, which fills every part of you. This pure, radiant white light flows into your body. Your body now is white light natured. No heaviness, no pain, just clear, light and bright. Then you can extend this light from your body in all directions so that it touches everyone, all beings, all humans, all animals, beings on other realms and planets and universes. And as it touches them, removes all their pain and suffering and brings all happiness. And transforming their bodies into white light nature bodies. And then we change our concentration object and we meditate now on the opportunity of our situation. So I now want you to visualize the situation that I'm going to describe. So visualize yourself in a situation of being in extreme poverty. Your whole environment is desolate. There's been no rain for years and years. Nothing grows in the environment. All the trees have been cut down. All other vegetation has been cut down. Nothing can grow. There are hundreds of people around you experiencing the same famine and starvation. Everywhere is the same. There's nothing to eat, nothing to drink. You feel incredibly weak from hunger and exhaustion. Your whole body is in pain from having no food for days and days. Your mouth is parched and dry. There's no one to help you. Everyone is in the same situation. People are starving all around you. So use your imagination and your visualization to really feel yourself in that situation. Remember a time when you were hungry or thirsty, and expand that 100 times. Then immediately come back to your present situation and instantly feel the difference. You're well fed, you're comfortable. There's food everywhere of every type. The environment is lush. You just have to take a few steps to get any kind of food, any kind of drink. You have shelter. The environment is not too harsh. Things grow everywhere. So think to yourself, I'm fortunate to have been born in a situation free of such extreme suffering and limitation. Not only that, I have the rare and precious opportunity to practice personal development, practice a path to enlightenment with this precious human life. Develop a strong sense of rejoicing in your situation and its opportunities, and hold this feeling of rejoicing single-pointedly. Then think, although I have this wonderful opportunity now, this life is impermanent. So I will strongly determine to take the essence of this life, of a freedom and opportunity, by practicing the path to enlightenment, and to ensure that I gain all positive qualities and eventually perfect enlightenment, so that I can then be of benefit for myself and for all others. Okay, so if you'd like to read a bit more about this subject in the book The Essence of the Path to Enlightenment by Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden, chapter 2 is called Life. That starts on page 27 of the book. You can read a bit more detail about this subject. Try and do some meditation each day and include this reflection on your freedoms, your fortunate circumstances and opportunities of your life. And then at the end of your meditation, make a determination to make the most of the opportunity by practicing to cultivate positive minds and positive qualities and to remove negative minds. And then throughout the day, try and renew that thought, that motivation. So that's your homework for this week. Okay, do you have any questions, comments? Thanks, Nicola. Nice to hear from you. Maria. Thank you, Maria. Chris. Oh, I'm glad you like that practice. I think it's, for me, it's a really joyful practice to do, thinking about our situation, our fortunate situation and the opportunities we have. I find it really lifts my mind, to think about that situation. Neil. Yes, things we take so much for granted. Yes, we just don't realize how fortunate we are, and the only way to bring it home to ourselves is to reflect on other people's situations that are not as fortunate. And as I said, it's not to say that we're better than them. It's just we are all in different situations, and we need to appreciate how lucky we are in our situation. With our physical environment and with our motivation and our urge and our intention to want to develop ourselves, to want to be of more benefit to others, and the opportunity to actually hear the teachings and to put them into practice. It's a really beneficial reflection for us to have. And it is in some ways it's a hard meditation to do when you start with. You imagine yourself in such difficult circumstances, you're starving, there's nothing around you. And we use reflections, images that we've seen, on television and descriptions of people in that situation to put ourselves in the situation. And it is hard, but we need to do it to be able to appreciate, how amazing our situation actually is and how amazing our opportunity is. So while it's in some instances one of the harder meditations, it's a really useful and I think essential meditation to do that, so that we come to the realization, to the real realization of the opportunity of our situation. Okay, nobody has any more comments or questions. We'll stop there. Have a good week. Remember to do your meditation each day, and I'll see you again next Sunday. Take care.